Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at The Amazon. The Amazon by Edward. Lord Herbert of Cherbury. This is a fragmentary text written 1630s, 1633 is the number I've got. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I mean, I think as with any manuscript thing, it's always a little uncertain precisely when it comes about because unless it's something that's performed in a public playhouse or printed, some of the markers, or if we know of a specific occasion where something is performed, it's sometimes difficult to give a precise date to these things. In the case of this particular text, the Amazon, it's sort of a thinking aloud process of the text, trying to figure out a show that isn't necessarily finished. Certainly, I say not necessarily finished. This manuscript is not the finished product. You can almost hear the writer deciding what they're doing as they're going along. Now, I have made editorial choices for this session with these wonderful readers who I will introduce in a moment. So mostly what you've got is the writer's last decision. There are a few bits where I have left some things struck through, or there are some lines that are frankly nonsense, and there's one speech you will get twice. So you will get a sort of sense of a play being thought out. If indeed it is a play, this is where this fragmentary text is so interesting. And in fact, this is one where further digging into the minutiae of this manuscript would be good fun. So we're going to have a little look at the Amazon and reading the Amazon today. We have reading Orethia and Councillor is...
Hi, I'm Eric. I am not an Amazon, at least last I checked.
Reading The Messenger is...
Hi, I'm Tom from Brighton.
Reading Gert or Agirte and Polidorus is...
Oh, Liza in London. I might be an Amazon. You don't know.
And reading Callerrhoe and Cleobulus is...
Hello, I'm Greg, and hopefully not too fragmentary.
And I'm your host, Robert Crichton. I'll be reading stage directions and trying to guide us through, a text that is not really finished and is really at its first thinking out. And I say, for all we know, was never finished at all, and that this is all we have. So we have a fragment of the actual characters mentioned in the play. Some of them coming up now. There's a character who we won't encounter. Myops, a pedant, is listed in the cast list, but sadly we will not meet them. So we're going to dive into. There's a little note as well, which is unclear what it means. If that you me will like, for I think myself to be lovely. No idea what the context for that is. That could just be something randomly written down on the manuscript. Anyway, what we're calling scene 1, let's have a little play with this. Enter Orethia and Callerrhoe. Ho.
Come on, my chosen friend. Although that guile wherewith men charge us so be thought our sin more properly than theirs, let us yet win this promise from them, that we may yet awhile our time beguile.
'Tis well, though these you say objects to us this fault, much better may accuse in us a cruelty and rage, that without cause a war against them wage, that are not only of our proper kind, but such as nature made our lords.
My mind, for to confess a troth, hath often told me heretofore as much, though I do hold the tyranny which husbands against their sex do exercise is able so to vex their greatest patience, that when they did shake those fetters off, which their consent did make, they did naught else, but the same knot untie their tongue first fastened.
I cannot deny, but it were to be wished on every side that neither part being forced to abide longer within one bed, then did it seem fit for their ease, they might at least redeem the vows they made, which then so ere they bind inconvenience, our priests do find so much against their laws. that they grow void and even in the makings are destroyed, that therefore if they did require divorce, they might enjoy it, without much remorse of doing ill than gamesters that give o'er when they are losers.
And yet one thing more I will subscribe, which is if they offend against their marriage bed and condescend to an adulterous love, on either part they may be put to death.
You get the start with that your nimble tongue, and do prevent my speech with yours, but had not sooner meant or punishment on those who then they might escape their bonds with honour, yet delight to do things for which they deserve to have those bonds internal.
This too would save from sin as well as shame both man and wife, who, when they might enjoy without all strife what they desire, need not to use their wit to act those secret mischiefs they commit in darkness and in corners, which extend even to posterity and do not end where their damnation doth. O happy state if either sex might, without all debate or force, enjoy their free and proper will, which tends both to avoid an ill, and choose a good and just state withal, that since if where laws are strictest it doth fall, within the power and license of each one to pass away their goods, is it alone their ills they cannot leave? Must they be slaves to their own errors, when each party craves to be absolved? Or can they be denied the liberty to which even those slaves are born, to have at least their love free? Must the scorn of beasts cleave to them, and their wrongs be new, spite of their hearts still? Good Callerrhoe, I cannot hear you.
All you say is true, but we perchance ourselves too much dilate upon this theme. For when once near the gate of Thebes a priest for prisoner I did take, he, as I remember well, then did make a longer discourse, in which he did declare how needful marriage was, and did not spare for to reproach our custom when each year two several times we in the lists appear, where do yield to ourselves to those who do contemn that our warlike race unto their own confusion. I will say no more. Let us now to the temple and implore help from that deity which doth preside and govern over all.
And you are my guide. Command, I follow.
And we infer a clock strikes at this moment.
Soft, the clock doth chime. 'Tis half an hour too soon.
Have this space to see what's done then in the marketplace.
And there I'm going to pause us, because we're about to have an entrance of another character, and I quite like that. Oh, we're here early. Oh, we're a bit early. What do we do? Do we go to the gift shop? Shall we have a little wander around? Maybe a cup of tea. They must have a little cafe at the temple, mustn't they? That's perhaps unfair. I'm really interested in this little debate because we do have people with different opinions, not wholly different opinions, but they have different extremities of their position that are bouncing off each other and really quite interesting. That we're effectively having this discussion about divorce and rights between couples and peoples. So this is a real. I really like this just as a little thing in its own right. I think it's a really interesting exercise, and again, there are always going to be little questions about precise phrasing and some of the things, because this is someone, I say, literally figuring out what they're writing as they're going along. It's not this even at even a first draft stage, but there's a lot of really good stuff in here. Any thoughts from the room on this, Greg?
It still felt like we'd been thrown into the middle of something. I still didn't feel like I'd got it. You know, sometimes plays do throw you in the middle of an argument at the start, but I still felt like there was too much of a throwing you in. So I do feel like there might, that certainly, if, as you're saying, he's thinking and he's writing as he's thinking. This definitely feels like if it was going to be me, I'd have to go back and write something to the start of this scene, because it just felt very, oh god, my head was hurting. Also, I feel like we're missing lines in that. There were times when I just went, where the hell did that go? Oh, where the hell did that come from? That thought with Callerrhoe.
And that
But
may
no,
be
really
punctuation,
interesting.
that may be that he just hasn't figured out the phrasing of what he's doing yet. All of the thoughts are there, all of the notes are there. They're not necessarily perfectly structured.
Not necessarily the right order.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, the only reason we'd call this
Oh.
scene one is because it's at the beginning of the manuscript, and we have got this rough draft of characters coming up. So, but that doesn't automatically mean it's supposed to be the first scene. We have,
I love.
yeah,
Sorry, I love the idea of them going off to the sort of finding a way, an impetus out of the scene was really interesting.
mm,
I love the fact that also they're about to get interrupted before they leave.
yes. But again,
It's a
you
nice sort of system.
yeah. Sorry, I'm jumping over you. What was the other thing I was going to throw in? Yes, because I've labelled this as scene one, but it doesn't necessarily mean it have to be. And John Hayward, we've in some of his plays, we've got these characters who are coming in mid conversation while having a debate about something, and so it's a not unknown little flow. Liza, were you listening to this debate, and how did it sound to your ears?
Well, it's parts of it sounded quite reasonable. To say, for example, I'm scrolling up to find it. If they therefore, if they did require divorce, they might enjoy it without more remorse of doing ill than gamesters that give o'er when they are losers. That is easy, no fault divorce being argued for in 16 whatever. And I kind of love that. And then the next thing is Orethia or Orethia says, "Oh, and also I wish that adultery were punishable by death."
Yeah, and it's like
I think it being punishable by divorce would be better than by death, because then everyone gets to live.
well, I think, but it's almost a deliberately it's there to move the debate on and ask. It's almost a straw man to be put in place for Callerrhoe to bounce off. You get the start with your nimble tongue, and it's just you're a bit quick on the maybe you've gone a bit too far for your argument there. Maybe you'd like to pull it back a bit, Eric.
Well, no, I think Callerrhoe is agreeing with her. Sorry, Eric. I think Callerrhoe is agreeing with her, saying, well, if you could get divorced, but you commit adultery anyway, then maybe you should die.
Eric.
Yeah, I was gonna say about the next bit. The bit I didn't understand is the whole. I mean, even though I was reading it, and this too would say from sin, blah blah blah, and then like there's this bit about free love, which I didn't really understand. I was like, are we in the 60s or 70s? Like, what's going on here? Because it's like, well, where laws are strictest, it doth fall within the power and license of each one to pass away their goods. Is it alone their ills they cannot? Yeah, I don't know. It's something weird is going on here, but I'm not quite sure what that paragraph / speech / stanza is on about. Like, because after Orethia ends the point about like, okay, maybe about adultery being punishable by death, and Callerrhoe agreeing with her. Orethia has this thing of like, and this too would say sin, but then she changes subject, so I have no idea where we're going with that.
I think it's just saying, if you can legally pass on your goods, then it's a bit of a play on word. Why can't you leave behind your ills? That is a bad marriage. Saying if both people want to leave the marriage, can they be denied the I like that line, the liberty to which even those slaves are born, as in you could free your slave. You cannot free your spouse.
Except in death. No, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I think you have a point.
Yeah, it's I think it's an extension of that thing of it's a happy state if both either sex are free to have some sort of self-determination here, which of course is not the way I mean, divorce is basically unheard of at this period. It doesn't really exist, as it will become much more common later on. We're still talking about you need a lot of money, regardless, and you need it's just not really a thing at this point in time. Okay, Eric.
I was just wondering about the rhyme because it's very obvious. It's very obvious that it's intentional rhyme, like sort of divorce, remorse.
It's couplets
void,
most of the way through, isn't it?
destroyed. Yeah, and but it doesn't. Obviously, it kind of what do you call it? My brain is not thinking the technical terms at the moment, but like it keeps running on, so it's like it's enjambed rhyme. I don't know what the term is. Where both man and wife who when they might enjoy without all strife, and then the sentence keeps going. Yeah, it kind of like I don't know, it's almost like Haywood wrote this.
Well, I think this is more speaking to the syntax of the kind of thing we have in the 1630s and this sort of period, is that there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of flowy onness and the kind of formal verse that we've had earlier with end stop lines and things like that is not really what people are playing on. So even though there is rhyme here, everything is dancing a lot more than this. And most of the plays we've been reading have been up to about 1605. We have danced done some stuff later than that in a fairly piecemeal way, but we've mostly been doing pre-Jacobean texts, and we're now much further on, and people are playing around with verse and what it does in increasingly diverse ways, and also depending on skill, and also depending on what draft of version this is. I mean, it might be he'll go back and have another go and try and make this work better, because as I say, what you can't see, as I say, are all the versions of these lines he hasn't written down. That he's crossed out, and which is why some of the sentences are really, really messy. And I've attempted to, as I say, give you his final thought from what we get. But that doesn't mean that's the best version, the clearest version, or the right version. It's just the best version I could make it easy enough for us to read in this context. So decisions have been made, which may have been terrible decisions. Talking of terrible decisions, let's move on with the arrival of a mountebank. So the clock has chimed. They're still sort of lingering around. Enter Agirte or Agirte, a mountebank.
Will you behold, ladies, an unguent here? You cannot buy too dear. I won it from a Persian in the war, where though I got a scar, it healed me of it. Ah, let me ere I sell its other virtues tell. A knight for this gave me his sword, and swore the marvels were far more he did with it than with his sword. A maid bought once hereof, and said she could not work such strange effects with all her beauty, though men call her fair by excellence. A priest of note, religious and devout, said that thereby he did more wonders act than he could, were he racked for to confess all that he had yet done with his holiness. What, will you buy?
I may hereafter send for to inquire hereof. Come, let us spend that little rest of time which yet we have to read that which our Sybil did engrave upon this column. If man do come within these walls, by the fate's doom your empire falls. To be thus warned, we are fair blessed, while armed for the rest with virtue. All we can do is to pray, to be still, it may be happy.
And exeunt Callerrhoe and Orethia.
They're gone away. I will go too, as well for goodness' sake, as that the company that way doth take.
And exit the mountebank and end of what we'll call the first scene. So my thoughts here is that we've got the sketch outline of something happening here, but all he's done is have the mountebank come on, do a fun song, and then they say oh look, let's read this thing. Read this plot point that's nailed to the wall of the temple. If man do come within these walls, I think a man may come within the walls of the temple at some point in the future. I just have a feeling that that might be a thing. But it feels like this is the sketch. This part of the scene is more of a sketch and an outline rather than a fully formed thing. But I don't know. Thoughts from the room? I liked the mountebank. I thought there was some nice stuff in there. Difficult to dance through. It's a tricksy little speech, but I thought you did that rather well.
Yeah. Am I correct in thinking that what I'm selling here is basically Viagra?
I think so.
Delicious.
In a mug. That's a lot of Viagra.
Yeah. So it's and again, it's interesting who you're trying to sell this to as well. So yeah. And then they see the what the Sibyls said. The Sibyls' daily announcement.
If a man, I feel like this might be a plot engine, you know.
Yes.
If a man enters this kingdom, the empire will fall.
Yeah. Within the walls. Presumably the mountebank is just outside the walls and it's fine. I mean, I don't know whether the mountebank is I don't know what whether that's male or female. I'm assuming male, but I don't know.
Well, no, they can't have any men. Agirte must be a woman.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't say that it could be outside the walls. It could be because we're
at the temple. I don't know.
That's true. Okay.
I also like the idea. I mean, as you were saying, it sort of enters via the gift shop, but I think the author was taking from what they knew in that churches did have marketplaces outside them because they were places that large number of people went to and from. And
yes.
Why not do a little shopping while you're there?
Yeah, St. Paul's precincts are basically full of bookshops and all sorts on offer, as well as religion and preaching and all sorts. But yeah, it's the centre of the book trade and other things as well. Any other thoughts? Okay, that was a scene. We're calling it a scene because this next thing looks like a different scene. We'll call it scene 2 for the sake of numbers. So enter Cleobulus. And there is a messenger and councillors about as well, we can infer.
No sign from heaven. Unauthorized 7 years being almost expired and nothing yet appears. Is this the faith of oracles? This the fate of me and those sweet infants which the state of all the warlike Amazons deplores? What? Neither heaven nor earth to me restores, in all this while those pledges they both gave, but are obliged to keep. We could not save, I do confess, them from their pirate hands. But since that sacred power which commands at Delphos have assured me that I shall meet them again, at what time those to fall at sign from heaven cause to aught I not know. What time those doth fall at sign from heaven cause to aught I not now expect, that when what he then foretold should take effect. Well, I will send a message to that port, whither the warlike Amazons resort, when they do treat, and then at large will know their present state, and unto whom they owe the peace they now enjoy, since when the line of their late queen extinguished with mine, we thought a civil and intestine war would surely vex them.
Speaks now to one, the messenger, presumably.
You shall not go far, therefore you may return again with speed. Your charge is this. You know that for their breed the Amazons must shortly in the way betwixt both regions stay, until their guards examine who you are, and what your business is. Then do not spare freely to tell your country and your name, and say as of yourself you thither came, only to be informed if their day of meeting hold, as by the way, inquire how the young queen her time spend, and what her sister doth.
You cannot send a man that is more willing to discharge the duty than myself.
Then tell at large all you can learn of these who you think not fit a stranger in their country to admit.
We can infer the exit of the messenger as Cleobulus speaks to a councillor.
He gets his teeth in again. What think of you of our neighbours? Do you like this female war? Think you delight to strike a beauty which if killed you would restore at your life's price?
Empire to me is more than love. For my own part, I would destroy millions of beauties when I might enjoy a kingdom for it, where I might give law and take those pleasures which respect and awe tendered to me, and which more delight than those half begged, 3 parts denied despites, rather than pleasures, which these women give those which are their servants and do live only for them.
You speak like one that's old.
Yet I'm not so cold, but I can feel, and though I do not burn, know how to warm me by the fire of love. And that's enough, since passions should not move beyond our reason. I can now command that which commanded me, and so deserve that love should serve me, which I once did serve. Could I but now a perfect woman see, one that would love what's worth the love in me, as much as I her beauty could esteem, we quickly should agree.
You do redeem that error in some part. While you protest that you can love, I never could digest harsh humours, nor did think myself secure amongst those whom no affection moves, how pure soe'er they seem.
Sir, as you make me glad in thinking me a man, so let me add strength to my words, so that you may understand why I had rather that you did command than seek in all respects love. While to omit those reasons make this war both just and fit as mankind's quarrel, is it not a shame, both to your people, country, house, and power, that women, these weak creatures, should give law so near your doors? Besides, must it not draw your other neighbors on you to attempt when they do see the feeble sex exempt from all your forces? Will they not think scorn that women thus should beard you?
Again. Well, next morn I'll hear your rest in earnest, when you all together on your argument must fall.
And they exit. So, end scene. We got a very different kind. You can see what the play's doing here. It's setting up one argument, and then it's presenting a different argument. We have a very different, very male perspective, shall we say, is being presented in this scene. I'm quite interested with the instructions to the messenger. It's like, make it very clear who you are, who you're coming from. It's very, very detailed instructions there to the messenger. And then as this little discussion with the councillor, there's several lines in there where a precise part. Greg, at sign from heaven, cause to ought I not now expect, is a line where I just couldn't decide what the author was trying to do with it, and I don't think the author knew what he was trying to do with it either. So I left it just as it was.
Because I was going put my teeth back in on that one. I mean, it was just like I read it and then I went, no, that's not right. Then I read it again and went, no, that was right.
It's basically not right. I just left all of the data in place. But we also have sort of struck through lines as well. You had which you had there. So when speaking to the councillor, you speak like one that's old. So that's the answer to all that you have said, and thus your answer: women must be prayed. And that's your answer. So yeah, it's like you just went, nah, you speak like one that's old. That'll do. That's enough of a setup, and it's got to be that because it rhymes with cold, which the councillor follows on from. Thoughts on the argument of the councillor, or from Cleobulus? Thoughts in the room. within the context of the earlier debate as well. Here, we've got two nations, one of which is not desperately happy with these women over there making laws and living their own lives with some sort of respect, and that can't be allowed. Discuss. Someone other than me, Eric.
How dare they? No, yeah, I'm kidding. But it's just yeah, it's interesting how the councillor basically creates a situation where you can see that the players are going to sort of go, well, I kind of think that these women should be subjugated because they are the feeble, weaker sex and all that stuff. Therefore, we have to meet them and, assault them and all that stuff. Yeah. What I'm interested in is when they see that feeble sex exempt from all your forces, does he mean like in the army, or does he just mean like generally you can't be like, no one else is going to respect you if you're losing to women, like war to women?
I think it could literally mean forces, in the sense we are talking about Amazons here. I think they're talking about Amazons plural. I don't know. I think it's just set in the Amazon. I think that's the logic of the text. But Liza, thoughts on that?
Well, basically, this dialogue is basically, is it okay to declare war on women? Is it okay to fight with women? Is it okay to physically hit women or kill them in the world of this play? I mean, this isn't a domestic play. And the councillor is basically saying, well, I would totally kill a whole lot of women if I could get a kingdom. That, power is more important. And also, women are so weak, so why do they have a whole kingdom right next door to you? And also, if other people see you spare women, they'll think you're weak. So yeah, enter the forces of misogyny. It will be interesting to see where this goes.
Well, see, in contrast with the first scene, which is arguing a very different thing. Not necessarily, they're not proper antitheses here, but they are juxtaposed. So there is, I think, a reasonable thesis going on here. Potentially, what the author is doing, and of course, we don't have all of what the author is doing, so we don't know for certain. Eric.
I just like how there might, I don't know if the councillor has any build up before this, because obviously this is what we have in the text, but his first line is basically this awesome statement about empire is more to me than love, but it's yeah, well, now we know what you're about. Yeah, it just
yes, nobody loves me, but I have power.
Yeah.
Great look. Okay. Any other thoughts on these this scene or the two together? Okay, let's.
What they're kind of doing.
Sorry, say again, Eric.
Well, it tells you what the councillor is about and what the messenger is about and what Cleobulus is about, and obviously what I don't know quite how Agirte is going to fit into all this plot, because maybe that was just an additional person they needed to fit into the thing. But yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Liza, were you waving out of the corner? No. Okay. So let's go into what we're calling Scene 3. There are two versions of this. We have the real first draft, and then there's a beginning of a second draft. That seems to be what's going on there. So let's read draft number 1. We have a note of enter Polidorus and Aristander, but we're not going to hear from Aristander, so we can all just stand here pretending to be Aristander. But let's listen to Polidorus.
What cannot love? Whither doth not extend his that fatal power, which from our first unto our latest hour, which from the one unto the other end of this great universe leaves nothing free, or which in some degree his influence doth not ascend, whose powers below most visible in fire, whereso as fast as it doth burn, all that it toucheth to itself doth turn, till joined in one flame they both aspire unto their sphere, where changed into light and vanished from our sight, they have the rest that they desire. Both enjoy what they desire, while those small bodies which they leave behind, what's incorrupt and pure, like to true love, can no way endure to have another form in them confined, but constant still unto that former flame from whence their pureness it came, do still maintain their proper kind. Yet love doth more than this, for by its force love to declare that fire, for by its force love to declare that fire, heavenly fire, descends. It is because our bodies do presume with that celestial fire to combine, from which it would not be withdrawn with force, or suffer a divorce till the soul grow divine both together. Hence, as each thing partaketh more or less of the other fire, in a new and different desire, their first original they so express that if from one immortal body come, it is the other's doom, with souls immortal us to bless, as then this fire more or less doth move, and creatures of animate kind so more or less we find in them that state, and properties it doth partake to love, until it do produce his like, to burn all to itself too near, and seal a mutual joy above, for who can give another cause than love? Who can give another cause than love? Why, that wants will doth grow. Why, that wants understanding, yet doth know. Why, that wants body, yet we find doth move, bringing not only down celestial powers, but even exalting ours to the celestial seat above. But not plant, beast, or man alone, but fire still in this love doth burn, and all offer to shoot. Ha! I am already wounded. Girl, whence? From your eyes. How dare you be so bold as tell me so? I did confess to save my life. Are you not Diana? For less than of a goddess your beauty is not, and for hunting none but she, I doubt not.
And thus ends that fragment. There's a lot of good stuff in that. It's interesting as it gets further on, it starts descending into sort of just feels like random lines rather than fully thought out things. It's like there's a at the beginning it's constantly reworking these ideas of flame and fire in ways that are really interesting. And then towards the end, it's like it's almost like it's notes rather than a fully.
Well, at the end, the last few lines read like cues.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
They read like there's an absent interlocutor. But in the poem itself, I think we must have some strike through lines that are still in the text.
It's a total mess, this section, and you know, and the reason why I've sort of left it relatively as it is because he starts the next draft in a moment, so you'll get to read that and see how different or similar that is. Shall we do that? Shall we find out what the next draft of this is? So, Polidorus and Aristander, and we're assuming that you're still Polidorus.
What cannot love? Whither doth not extend his might and fatal power, which from our first unto our latest hour, which from the one unto the other end of this great universe leaves nothing free, or which in some degree his influence doth not ascend, whose power below most visible in fire, as fast as it doth burn, all that it toucheth to itself doth turn, till joined in one flame they both aspire unto their place, where changed into light and vanished from our sight, they both enjoy what they desire. While those small bodies which they leave behind, what's incorrupt and pure, like to true lovers, can no way endure to have another form in them confined, but constant still unto that former flame from whence their pureness came, to still maintain their proper kind.
And the fragment ends. Very similar, but just feels tidier. Yeah. Thoughts on this? Thoughts on this? I think there's a lot of good stuff in that speech. Actually, I was really liking some of the flow and the dance, even in its slightly untidier form. I'm still really enjoying what some of those the bits that they're doing.
Yeah, I like the fire metaphor. I think the differently metered lines work well. I think it's supposed to be an ode in actual Greek form, possibly. Eric knows more about this than me.
I don't actually. I don't know much about Greek odes, but I do know that there's a lot of fire. It's incendiary. No, yeah, I don't know what to think about this because every other line is about fire. Like, I get he has a metaphor going, but it's just kind of hitting you over the head with it a bit, just a little bit. Though it does seem to link back to what Cleobulus was saying about like, sorry, no, not Cleobulus. The Councillor was saying about like, I've experienced the flame. I know how to warm me by the fire of love, but I can handle myself now. I'm in control of myself.
Yes, this idea
whereas,
that this is a youthful figure that we've got here who is all full of the fire and the flame and the excitement of love, and then the older councillor is sort of, no, it's sort of burned down to an ember now. I'm sort of it keeps me vaguely warm in the background, but I'm much more interested in the flame of power. Kind of logic.
Yeah. But you can see how this player is kind of going from different extremes, like, because even though we don't have the full play,
we now have the totality of the text. This is all we have. So we got 3, and you could argue a bit scene. So you could almost argue the mountebank is potentially sending us in a different direction as well. We have a sort of geopolitical universe that we're set in. We've got individual strands of this love thing here, and this question of divorce from the presumably Amazon people there at the beginning, and that you can see where all this could turn into something really interesting. I'm really curious to see now, to say to someone, hi, where do you want to take this? Because there's some really interesting stuff here. I mean, I'm more interested in it at the moment as just a piece of fragmentary text that you can see in the text an author trying to decide what to write as he's going along, and the choices and the strike-throughs that you can't see in the version you've got. I'm really interested in playing with that, actually, as I've done something similar with with the fragment of the Hunting of Cupid, which is a series of random fragments, and just putting them together in an interesting soundscape. I'm quite interested in doing that. But as a starting point for a play, there's a lot of really interesting stuff here you could play with. Other thoughts before we close on this, Eric?
Well, I was going to say that supposedly mythically, or at least, mythologically, I don't know what the right term is. There is historical precedent in it, well, as in like, an Amazon falling for a man, and then obviously war happens. So I seem to remember there is some kind of like thing about the Amazons attacking Athens, because they kind of and then what happened was the queen of the Amazons was either killed or kidnapped. I can't remember one of the two. And by her lover, he kind of like, so you could see how this could destabilize the situation. And you could see how that could like take this where this play could go. Yeah, and it's an interesting thought.
Liza.
Okay, while we've been talking, I've been reworking the last bit of this scene as a dialogue. It does read a bit like cues, but I thought, what if I only use what's there? And I think a girl enters in hunting attire, and offer to shoot is a stage direction, that she offers to shoot at Polidorus. And Polidorus says,
"Ooh, yes, I like that. Yeah."
Says, "I am already wounded," and
I am
Because the
already
line
wounded, girl.
Well, the line is, I am already wounded, girl, whence? But I think girl might be a speech heading.
Ooh.
Polydorus says,
Yeah, that
I
could
am
be.
already wounded. The girl says, whence? Polydorus says, from your
From your
eyes.
eyes.
How dare you be so bold as tell me so?
I did confess to save my life.
And then I think Polydorus goes on, are you not Diana? For less than of a goddess your beauty is not, and for hunting none but she, I doubt not. So I think there's a girl in hunting attire offering to shoot him.
I
Yeah.
like that.
A gay in Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, this may be first contact of the Amazons with the neighboring kingdom of dudes.
Yeah. So, still in this love doth burn, and all. I mean, and all. Yeah. Offer to shoot. I am already wounded.
Whence?
From your eyes.
How dare you be so bold as tell me so?
I did confess to save my life. Are you not Diana? For less than of a goddess your beauty is not, and for hunting none but she, I doubt not.
Huh.
That
So that
works.
sounds like it might be going into an interesting little scene if the author had written more of it.
Yeah. Can we infer anything out of that bit before offer to shoot as to?
Yeah.
Because offer to shoot does read like stage direction, but it's like, can we make? But I am already wounded feels like it needs to follow a line of dialogue.
Well, we could say, still in this love doth burn something, a name, either Polydorus himself, or still in this love doth burn someone for someone else, or and all aflame he thingy what's it, or
I like
or-
no, I'm really liking that as a because that gives it a direction, that gives the scene somewhere to go. I mean, there's this question as we can't be absolutely certain it's Polydorus speaking. We've got enter Polydorus and Aristander, but
yeah,
of course
maybe this is what Aristander does.
exactly. Well, this is the thing: is just because we've got their two names at the top of a scene doesn't automatically mean they both enter at the top of the scene. Because if we're going with sort of neoclassical logic, it will be the two people in the scene, but we haven't necessarily listed their entrance. So it could be that the interlocutor is Aristander. I don't know if that's a traditionally feminine name. I don't know.
Usually names that end in der are men.
That's what I was thinking, and so I assumed that this was a dude coming in going, "I'm in love so much with love, it's like flames," and the other one standing there going, "Yeah, sure, mate." That's usually what we have.
But maybe Aristander is the unfortunate lover who the girl is shooting at. Who knows?
But no, I like that, and we can go back to the manuscript and see if there's any other clues as to other elements in that. Because of course the rewrite proper kind only gets about halfway down the original text anyway, so it's not like that interferes with that as a logic. So yeah, maybe there are sort of semi notes and hidden things in there that makes sense. Yeah, I like that. Any other discoveries anyone's made in this fragment live? I don't think anyone's noted. I will check to see if anyone's noted that probability, but I don't think anyone's necessarily done so. We shall see. Any other thoughts? I quite like playing with this, and I quite like the idea of playing with this as a starting point. I think the opening dialogue discussion is really interesting. I think especially within the context of who he is as well, within the literary circles that Ed, that Bertie, as he's a Herbert, and that's quite a literary circle to conjure with, and the people he might have been expecting to speak these lines in performance, probably in a country house somewhere.
Well, he's a Herbert, not a Hisbert.
Yeah, thank you. That's a reason to close this session right now. We're here for the puns, people. We're here for the puns.
How much am I being paid for these jokes?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Otherwise, I will thank all the wonderful readers for all the wonderful reading on this little fragment of the Amazon. More on this anon. Oh, Eric, did you have more, or are you just waving?
I'm both waving, but I also do have more because the line about words cannot love, wither cannot does not extend his, I can't even read, his might and fatal power. There was a part of me going, oh yeah, that's totally not lifted from Aeschylus. Because it's like that whole thing about eros anikate machan, so on and so forth, which is kind of like love undefeated in battle. You know, basically no one can beat love.
Yes, but where's
the
it from?
Which of the Aeschylus?
Supplies? I can't remember. My brain is not functioning on that level yet. But I can double check. It's one of those ensemble plays, which is very interesting because it doesn't have a focus. But I can double check when I go, because I think Greg had something to say also.
Greg? No, I think Greg was just waving. We're just drowning. That's what we're doing. Right. On that note, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to all the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone. And goodbye. Others do